Hi, and welcome to the Feel Good Always podcast. I'm Becky Bradley, and this is real stories of love, connection, and remembering who we are. Today, I'm joined by my good friend Mike Mendoza. He's the co-founder of iMpower Nutrition Coaching. He's a longtime fitness trainer and certified nutritionist who has helped thousands of people transform their health and mindset through food, movement, and community. Mike's journey began in fitness, but a profound ayahuasca experience and ego death sparked a spiritual awakening, one that gave him the courage to truly put himself out there and live in alignment with his mission to help others heal through nutrition, mindset, and lifestyle. Mike's story is a beautiful reminder that feeling good isn't about perfection, it's about presence, nourishment, and connection on every level, body, mind, and spirit. If you're listening today, I don't think it's by accident. I know there's something that you're going to hear today, something that will remind you that we are divinely guided and that we are always invited to feel good always. So let's begin. Hi, and welcome to the Feel Good Always podcast. I'm Becky Bradley. This is real stories of love, connection, and remembering who we are. I'm here with Mike Mendoza, my good friend. Hi, Mike.
Hi.
So glad that you're here.
Thank you for having me.
So Mike is, Mike and I met about a couple years ago in yoga, and kind of like I keep saying on this podcast, I have these people that come into my life that are part of this really feel good always energy, that I meet somebody and I know pretty immediately that they're part of what's happening here. And that was something that happened with you. Once we got to talking, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, so you're here, you're going to give a beautiful message to people that are listening. I know you are, and the timing of having you here is all perfect. I also say often that I'm not really in charge of this. It all ends up kind of working out perfect, and we'll talk more about how it seems that the timing of this worked out. I'm going to read a little bio for you, and then it's it. So today we have my good friend, Mike Mendoza here. He is co-founder of iMpower Nutrition Coaching, where he and his wife, Jen, have spent years leading people through powerful transformation in nutrition, mindset, and lifestyle. They've been together for 33 years, and they're the proud parents of 3 adult daughters and a 13-year-old son. Family is at the heart of everything that they do, and that deep sense of connection shines through in their work with their clients and with everybody they come into contact with. Instead of focusing on restriction, Mike and Jen teach a balanced, sustainable, and empowering relationship with food, centered on adding the right nutrients and habits through their programs. Often delivered in partnership with yoga studios, clients discover something surprising. Sugar cravings fade, junk food loses its grip, and people realize they can actually eat more, not less, and finally feel amazing in their bodies. Mike is a longtime fitness trainer, certified nutritionist, and CPT with over 20 years of experience, as well as a yoga lover and a hand-pan drum enthusiast. His approach to fitness is about more than sets and reps. It's about building a relationship with your body that honors patience, strength, and trust. Beyond the physical, Mike has also walked a profound path of awakening, from ayahuasca journeys and ego death experiences to profound synchronicities. His story is one of surrender, expansion, and remembering who he truly is. He carries his coaching philosophy into every aspect of life: strength, family, music, and the spiritual signs that continue to guide his path. Mike is the first male to join the Feel Good Always podcast, and the timing feels and is divinely orchestrated. With his 2 older daughters leaving for basic training just yesterday, we'll be diving into his reflections and feelings around that big life transition. And most of all, it has been a joy to witness Mike's deepening journey of presence and connection. His story is a reminder that transformation, whether physical, mental, or spiritual, is always possible.
Amen.
Does this sound about right?
That sounded great. Yeah.
That's you.
Yeah.
And you're so much more. So I like to start off just to talk about how you came into my life. I mean, you could share that story.
Sure.
And that tells a little bit about yourself too. I mean, yoga.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're in yoga together, in the same studio. And I just remember knowing what happened with you and with Kira, just knowing through the grapevine and not knowing who that was. That was, that was the mom of Kira. I didn't know who it
So
was at
you
that time.
heard somebody's daughter died.
I did, but I heard,
Because
yeah,
I want to say this, I've been practicing all over the place for a very long time.
yep,
But the studio that I went back to, it was actually kind of nice for me not to know anybody.
right,
Because I could just walk in and practice and not have everyone's pain reflecting back at me. So a
yep,
studio that I normally had practiced at for years, I didn't go to.
right. And I heard through my daughters,
Okay, yeah, because
who were around the same age, I think, at the time.
yeah,
And I heard through my daughters, but then I heard also somebody mentioned to me that it was you and pointed you out. And I remember seeing you come back to class again and again. And I'm like, and I knew that this had recently happened. And I was actually watching you with admiration, like how in the world, because I have three daughters and I'm, four kids, and I'm like, how in the world is she here? How in the world is she here doing this right now? It just boggled my mind, really, you
yeah,
know. And I thought to myself, like, how I want to talk to her. I don't know why I wanted to talk to you, but I
yeah,
felt like this like pull that I needed to talk to you for some reason. And I was chicken, right? I was scared to talk to you. I didn't know what I would say. And I'm like, there's nothing I can say. Like, what am I gonna
yeah,
say to her,
yeah,
So I didn't. And then I can't remember how much time went by. It was quite some time. And then we ended up in a conversation after a yoga class one day that started in the lobby area, and then it carried out into the parking lot, and it went on for quite some time.
yeah,
And that's where we talked about. I mean, I was sharing I didn't know what to share with. I didn't know what to ask you, so I was like, okay, I don't really know what to say in this
yeah,
situation, so I'm just going to share something that I've recently experienced myself, right? And I felt it appropriate because what I experienced during like night 2 of this 3-night ayahuasca ceremony was nothing short of amazing, right? And it felt like all encompassing, and it felt like the most bliss I've ever felt. It felt amazing, right? It was the most amazing feeling I've ever had. And that was, this experience of dying, of letting go.
yeah,
And that's what I shared with you that day. And then we ended up talking about breath work, and you kind of got me interested in that,
yeah,
because it sounded like a very similar type of experience of letting go, and letting go of all the layers of protection that you know we try to keep ourselves safe from make believe things out there in the world, right? And I'll just never forget that conversation because it went on for some time. And I think as I was driving home, I was like, I was like, wow. So not only is she like consistently going to yoga, hot yoga, which, okay, good for her. Maybe she needs that. But she was able to have this conversation with me with, no problem. And like when I was talking about death, like she just seems so, what I thought was, you seem so put together for somebody who had just experienced this
mhm,
completely life changing, episode.
yeah, which is so interesting. First of all, I want to just say that I wanted to die in yoga. So
hmm
I heard a message and I'm very connected. I understand, which was go to yoga. I at the time thought I would never, how do you walk in the room? But literally 5 minutes before I went back to my first yoga class, which was probably after 3 weeks, I was sitting there and I heard a message like in myself, which was go to yoga. And I was like, oh my gosh, am I doing this? And it was really hard. But a lot of times what I talk about is I've been practicing for a really long time, not just yoga, but all these rituals that I've done in my life. And so yoga, my mat has been a mirror. My mat has been where I've processed years and years of emotion. And so it was something to do and I needed to move the energy. I didn't really understand why I was getting the message, but I also know like meeting you, all kinds of things by listening to, almost like what I didn't want to do, I went. And so and also for me it was really hard, just people being alive was a trigger. So I wasn't really put together, but I actually had beautiful people, Tony Kydell, Amanda Kydell, I know you know these people, Becca, who will later be on the podcast, that really held so much space for me. I think Becca gave me like a massage during Shavasana for like 3 months straight.
Mm.
I had people laying out their mats next to me and crying right alongside me. So I did have a lot of support, but I did keep going. And I love that I could, people had done it before me, not necessarily walk through something this hard, but in my opinion, but I had watched people come. And so, we are just helping each other do this. And so I believe we're connected. Our higher selves are connected. So I immediately knew once I started talking to you and you talking about death and this blissful experience, whether you knew it or not, it helped me because my child had died. And I knew because I had been hearing it, watching about near death experiences, I knew when people do that, when they have near death experiences, they talk about it being the most blissful thing. So that was kind of coming into my field, which means I just was hearing about it. And you came in right around the same time. So the things you were talking about, your own experience, not actual you with actually physically dying, but it felt that way.
Oh yeah.
It helped me. And so we meet in the parking lot, we're talking, and then it goes from there. But what I'd like to do is talk about that.
Sure.
Just the ayahuasca. I've never done ayahuasca or plant medicine, but I want to say that when I was in absolute utter pain, I was like, I will do anything because so I considered it. I gave myself some time, like if things didn't get better, I would do it because I had heard things like this, that like it can connect you, it could show you more. And when you get to the point that I was at where I wanted to die, that I would be willing to do anything. And so I'm super open, like with that for anybody that feels called to do that under their own circumstances, because, if it could help somebody. And so and then sounded like it was a huge opening for you.
Yeah, for me, it went back about 5 years before I actually had the experience. 5 or 6 years, I was reading books that were about ayahuasca. I had read a couple of books and I was very interested. And I thought at the time, like I have 4 kids, I have a lot of responsibilities, I have a family. In my mind, I thought, okay, if I'm going to have the experiences that I've read about here, I need to go to Peru. I need to go up a river. I need to be completely out of contact with society, potentially, just get lost completely. Yeah. And so I was unwilling to do that. I was unwilling to leave my family and just go on a journey myself at the time. So I kind of put it on the shelf and thought, okay, maybe at some point in the future, but I really just let it go. I let it go completely. And I think about 4 years, 3.5, 4 years after I let it go, a barber shop moved in next door to my wife's Pilates studio. And my wife went over to say hi, as she does, because she's very social. And she noticed that this one workstation in the barber shop happened to be the owner of the barber shop, but his workstation was full of tapestries and geometric designs and all the stuff that she knows I'm into, right? And she came home and said, "Hey, you have to go get your haircut at this barber shop." She connected me with this guy, Andreas, who's now a very close friend of mine. I was just in his wedding not too long ago. But anyways, I go to get my haircut by Andreas, and I hadn't really even thought about ayahuasca in 3.5 years, right? Like barely. And he said, "Hey," after about 3 or 4 haircuts, conversations that we had, he said, "Hey, I'm putting together this retreat in Nevada City at an Airbnb. Would you be interested in coming? We're going to have some plant medicine and whatever." And I'm like, "Oh, plant medicine? Like what? What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, it's ayahuasca." And I said, and I'm sitting in the barber chair and I thought, isn't that interesting how we think this is what I have to do? I have to travel to Peru. I have to go up a river. I have to disconnect myself from everything. And then like I shelved it and I said, in the universe's timing, right?
Yeah.
And then it showed up right in my lap.
Did it feel like, okay,
it felt like there was no way that this was a no.
Yeah.
This was a yes, right? This was a yes. So I said yes. And I ended up going to the ayahuasca retreat with about a dozen people in this Airbnb in Nevada City, which is my hometown. It's where I grew up.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I grew up in the outskirts of Nevada City,
Okay.
very, very rural. And so I go to this retreat, and the first night, first of all, it was very musical, right? A lot of instruments being played, and I felt pretty comfortable. But it is a dozen people. I only know one of them. And I know we're about to undergo some pretty serious mental, spiritual transformation. So it's a little nerve wracking, but I remember the first night being very nervous and very very nervous, but also very excited and very open to what might happen, right? And so um, we drank, and
You drank the ayahuasca.
I drank the
Okay.
ayahuasca about 2 hours into it, which is when the shaman sort of rings a bell and says, "Hey, does anybody want more?" I'm like, "Yeah, no, I'm good for this night, right? I think I'll just stay with what I had." And somebody played a chime. I believe it was Andreas, my buddy. He played a chime, and something about that chime like triggered something in me, and I was fine. I was sitting there breathing, and I was a little sick to my stomach, whatever, sweating, but like I was transported to a trail that led to my great grandma's house in Union City in the Bay Area. And I was about 11, 12 years old at the time, and I don't remember much about my childhood. But since then, much has come back. But at that point, I didn't remember much at all. And I remember the next day describing the trail to my great grandmother's house to my mom. And I say trail because it was from my grandma and grandpa's house to my great grandma's house, right? There was a trail that you had to walk. And I remember describing in great detail, like the grass, the stones, the turns, the approach to her carport, all the details to my mom the next day. And my mom was like, "How do you know that?"
Because you were there.
I was actually there,
which
right?
is so cool.
And so I remember,
Yeah, you were there. And when I'm saying that, it's like your ayahuasca journey took you there, like
yes,
literally.
it took me there. I
Yeah,
was
and then
literally
to see
there.
something that you shouldn't know, but your mom ends up
Yeah,
verifying, confirming for you what you probably already knew. You
yeah,
knew,
I knew, but
but it helps to have these confirmations.
I wanted the confirmation for
Yeah,
myself.
like how is this possible?
I wanted to know that this was real because
Yeah.
what ended up happening was the chimes were the wind chimes in her carport.
Oh, cool.
And so I realized the next day, I'm like, okay, that's the thing. That's why when he played those chimes, like I was, like you see in a movie.
Activation point.
Yeah, it activated me.
Yeah.
And then here I am turning the corner, walking into the carport, and I'm like looking at my great grandma, who I haven't thought of since like 1988, 89.
Yeah.
Not really. And I remember just staring at her as I'm staring at you, like, wow, because she looked exactly like I remembered her. She had her little dog, and she was sitting in her like recliner in her living room. And I remember having the feeling of like almost going to say something and then ripped out of it, right? But it was like a great familial, very familiar feeling with her. And I didn't know what it meant. I was like, okay, well, that was it. That was it. That was like the main sort of traveling experience for that evening. And I remember explaining it to the shaman the next day, and he's like, "Oh, that's really interesting, right? Because what did he say? That the spirit of ayahuasca is the grandmother spirit."
Okay. Yeah.
And he's like, "So if you think about it, like how," and I thought, like, how is it possible? Because nobody knows that. Not my wife doesn't even know this, right? Like nobody knows this.
Yeah.
Nobody knows this familial relationship that I had. But I think I was very close to her when I was a kid, when I was younger, and I just don't remember. And so that was ayahuasca's way of introducing itself to me.
Yeah, introducing you to you.
Introducing me to me. And
I mean, that's kind of how I look at it. It's like ayahuasca introduces you to you, your higher self, and your grandmother, and so you get to see this. I've had lots of similar experiences where I'm like, we're going to talk about breath work, but my grandmother came to me in breath work, not as intensely as you, because I think ayahuasca, I mean, I don't know that much about it, but I know with plant medicine, we're filtering things out with our brains. And it turns the filter off to see what's there, so our consciousness can expand and go see what it needs to see. And that's what you got shown. And so I've had that through holotropic breath.
Yep.
And my first experience were my grandmother and my cousin, who died 25 years ago, almost 27 years ago, but it had been 25 years. They both came to me in holotropic breath. And it was I didn't get as much confirmation as you, but it felt really real that they came to me. And it's not really until after Kira dies and I start having a lot of experiences like this that I understand that, yes, they came to me. So it was also my grandmother too. And it's an opening where you start going, wait a second.
Right. I've questioned a lot of things. I'm like, how is it possible that I'm sitting in front of you? Like I thought, because it was so detailed, it was like I could reach out and touch your face.
Yeah.
I could see her.
Yeah.
She was in front of me. And I just thought, like, I just, before that point, I thought I heard things like this in the past, and I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I don't trust what other people say. Like, I have to experience it.
Yeah. Yes.
And so
Yes.
when it happened, and then I got the explanation from the shaman the next day, I thought, oh, wow, I think it's what I needed in order to, because I wanted to have this breakthrough experience, right? And it's the safety feeling that I needed to say, oh, okay, well, if that's the introduction, then I feel totally safe.
In this whole 3-day experience.
Right. I feel connected and I'm ready for whatever comes, right? And I don't need to fear anything.
Which I feel like is so beautiful because the way that I've experienced it, fear is not ours.
Mhm.
Only love is real. I'll
Mhm.
just keep saying it. When we are being introduced to something through spirit, I'll use that word, we only get shown what we're ready to see because we couldn't see it all at once. Our nervous systems couldn't handle it because we are in human bodies. And so my experience has been, I mean, I feel like I've had a very accelerated experience, but I get shown what I can handle. And so you get like little pieces. Like here's a piece that adds on to this piece and adds on to this piece. But that was a real beginning for a real opening for you to start questioning things. And then you move on to the
It took me to night 2, which
night
was
2.
yeah. So night 2 was interesting because I remember hanging with the dozen people that we were with the next day, and it was my hometown, so it was my responsibility to kind of like show everybody around, right? So we went to the river, we did some different things, and went some hikes, went to a lake, and did some paddle boarding during the day, and then came back at night and went for round 2. And in round 2, same deal, right? We drank when it got a little bit dark, and I remember about an hour and a half goes by, and the shaman rings this bell, and that's kind of like, hey, does anybody want some more? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, okay, well, kind of how much, right? I'm like, just fill it up.
Yeah, you trusted at this point.
Yeah, give me, like,
Yeah.
I said, let's do this, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what I said, something like that. Let's go.
Yeah.
And so he kind of looked at me and said, oh, okay. And so I remember drinking it and thinking, like, not being afraid, right? And thinking, oh, this will be fine. But then some things happened in the circle. There was some commotion, and I felt a little claustrophobic in the house, in the living room. And you're supposed to stay in this ceremonial circle, right? That's the rules.
Okay.
And I said, well, F the rules. I'm going outside because I felt claustrophobic. I felt like there were some things happening that like didn't really worry me, but I was like, it felt like it was nails on a chalkboard to me.
Yeah.
In the circle.
And you had to listen to yourself.
Right. I had to listen to myself. And I
Yeah.
remember somebody had set up a blanket on the front yard of this Airbnb in Nevada City before the night began. So I went out, I walked myself out there, and I found the blanket, laid on the blanket, and looked up at the sky. It's dark, right? So it's a stargazing night. It's beautiful. I think it was in June or July. And I look up and it's daylight. I mean, it's dark outside. It's like 10:30 or something. It's daylight, and it freaked me out. So
Yeah.
I closed my eyes, and then in closing my eyes, I was even more freaked out. I'm like, okay, can't open my eyes, can't close. I'm like, I didn't know what to do. I was stuck on this blanket, and I was like having an experience, and I'm like, oh great, I shouldn't have left that circle, right? But then I started to calm down, and this guy Dan, who was part of the circle, he came out with his guitar. I think he noticed I was struggling or whatever. I don't know. But he sat down at my head and played his guitar and played this song that him and his father had wrote years before about love and legacy and family and all this stuff. And it was very soft and very gentle. And I remember laying there and closing my eyes and having that feeling of, yes, there, like whatever was in my field of vision, wherever I was, it was too much for me to comprehend. Like I couldn't make sense of direction or anything. Like it felt like this orb, or I was inside of a sphere. I could see in all directions. And as I would breathe, because I remembered, like, hey, go back to my breath, I would take a deep breath and I would breathe all of this in, and then I'd breathe out, and then I would breathe it out. I don't know if that makes any sense. And then other times,
I mean, it's an experience.
Other times
that you had,
I would breathe out and it would breathe me in, and then it would breathe out, and it was
so it was a massive felt experience.
Very massive felt
and
experience.
And then
I end up basically fizzling out over, like, I remember the feeling of, okay, well, here I am, like, this was a total mistake. I'm in my hometown. I'm gonna die on this lawn because I could
You
feel.
felt like you were
I
dying.
felt like I was dying, and I'm like, this is. I did too much. Like this is what was I? You know, all those things that go through your mind very quickly. I think it turned from that to just letting go completely as he's serenading me to death with this beautiful song, right? And so I just completely let go. And I remember asking Dan the next day, I'm like, hey, what was going on with me? Like, what did you observe, right? And he's on the ayahuasca as well, but he's like, well, what I saw was you were like breathing very shallow, right? And then you stopped breathing for like a minute
Wow.
for a while. And so maybe I don't know what was happening physiologically, but
Slowing down your breath maybe as you
yeah. And I definitely
were about to have a
yeah,
death.
I felt like I was letting go, and people talk about your life flashing before your eyes, and maybe your family coming to mind and stuff like that. Like, I'll be honest, there was none of that. There was
Blank
not.
or
It was not blank, but like just very good feeling, right? Like a very warm feeling, very much like, wow, that this is dying. Like this is amazing, right? I wasn't scared at all. At a certain point, once I got past all of that self talk, I was like, okay, here we go, right? This is an amazing ride. This has been an amazing ride. This looks like it's going to be another amazing ride. And I just let go. And I remember gasping for air. And he's like, oh yeah, I remember. Dan told me. I was like, I remember that happening too. And then I was cramping, my muscles were cramping, and I just felt not great. And I remember thinking, like, what just happened? Like, how long was I asleep for? Like, am I alive? I didn't know, right? And so I knew I needed to go back into the circle, that I shouldn't have been outside, and all these things kind of came back to me, and I crawled. I crawled because I could not walk. There was no way. I crawled upstairs to the deck, back into the circle, and I remember looking at the shaman Philip, and he had asked me the night before and earlier in that night, "Hey Mike, do you feel the medicine?" I'm like, I feel it, sure, whatever, like I feel something." And he looked at me, and he had this hiking LED red light on his forehead because there's no lights really. You don't want any lights on. And he looked at me with this light on, and he had this pan drum in his lap.
The pan drum.
The
Enter the pan drum.
Enter the pan
Anybody
drum.
that knows Mike Mendoza knows you for your pan drum.
Yeah.
So this is where it gets introduced to feed all of us, really, essentially.
Yeah, first time I've ever seen it. And
Okay.
if you think about it in terms of like life and death, or death and birth, let's say, I was just born, right? I felt like I was just born.
Yeah.
And this is the first thing I see, and I see Philip looking back at me, and he said, "Hey Mike, where were you?" I was like, "Oh, I was outside." And he's like, and he looked at me and he said, "What happened?" And I said, "Well, I died out there."
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that I'm here, but I think I'm here. I think I'm alive, right? And he said, "Do you feel the medicine?" And then I laughed. I broke out laughing, and everybody in the group laughed, and it was just a really good energy. I kind of go back to my spot, and then I listen to him carry forward with this just beautiful pan drum song. And from that point, as far as the pan drum goes, because I'm not a super musical, I love music, but I'm not like a musician by any sense of the word, right?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That you don't consider yourself a musician, although I might, since I've watched you play and lots
different.
of playing.
It's different when it comes to that drum. I feel very connected to it.
You are.
And so I think that's probably what I'm guessing what most musicians would say. They feel connected to the music, to the instrument they're playing, and to the people they're playing it for.
Yeah.
And that's why I like doing it, for the connection. But
so so I want to say a couple things about this.
Mm-hmm.
So you have this whole experience, and I want to just talk about the correlations to me inviting you here. I will have themes in my life. I don't know ahead of time. I think we scheduled this like a month ago. The theme that is coming right in right now, and what Kira and the team is talking about, is death and feel good always, which is very interesting. And so and it's not just about physical death, it's about the deaths we experience, and that exactly what you're talking about. I have also experienced, I've experienced my own ego death through the death of my daughter. It's like the most worst, crazy, but as soon as you let go, which I mean, my experience is, it's multifaceted what happened, but it's that like in that surrender is this beautiful, oh wow, okay, that really we can't put, everybody has to have their own experience.
Right.
So when people look at me, it's like in death, there's a rebirth. And on the other side, you're shown more. Like for you, it's your pandrum. For me, it's the work I'm doing today. But it's all intertwining because we find each other and we're afraid of death. That's kind of the theme that's going on. And I'm not saying we like you and I, but people tend to be. And we have many deaths and rebirths, many, MINI, mini, and also mini in our life. But you can have smaller ones or bigger ones. I haven't had one through plant medicine, but I do understand, at least through my felt experience, what it feels like to have essentially died.
Yeah.
I feel like I died as Becky Bradley. And what that does in a big way is inform everything that I do moving forward, because it's like, what am I afraid of?
You're already dead. You already died.
I did. Yeah, I don't have, and I've experienced on a very long level that wanting to die and living through it. And then the opening, which happened to you in ayahuasca, I didn't have to use plant medicine to be kind of like, but I would do it. I want to say that right now. I'm not attached to anything.
Right.
So if it started, you asked me before we started recording,
a
question about, because I was talking about how I'll get things in my, I'll start hearing things everywhere, and then I'll know. I always use my own discernment because I have the answers. Becky does. They come from within. But if I started getting a lot of messages around plant medicine that I felt like I was supposed to, I would.
Yeah.
But
that's what happened for me.
Yeah. Like you start, I listened, but, I've been catapulted without it through a really deep surrender, and which opened me up to things like you're talking about, where I've had these really profound experiences that actually don't make sense on a human level.
Right.
And then it opens it up for more feeling in everything, a connection to everything and everyone, and this probably started long before Kira's death, because I've been on this path. We were always going to be here in this, sitting here. We had that conversation in the parking lot, but it's actually happening now, which is fascinating.
Right.
And our future is already happening. And I keep saying, we're just walking towards this feel good always, this energy where everything is connected, and only love is real. And we're being shown how to do that. So that could be through ayahuasca. That could be through something like what happened with me. But it does tie back into surrender and letting go.
Yeah, you mentioned the fear that people have around death, the fear that I have around death.
Do you still have it?
So interesting part of the story. Perhaps maybe
one of
the most interesting parts of the story.
Yes. Okay, let's talk about this. I remember this part.
It's the next day.
Okay.
And I remember thinking to myself, like, wow, is that what death is?
Yeah.
Because if that's what death is, like, I'm good. Like, I'm actually looking forward to it now, whenever it happens, right? I'm not like in fear that someday it's going to happen, and it might be today. I might get hit by a bus, whatever. But I remember feeling almost like a puffed up ego way of looking at it. Like,
I'm invincible.
I got this, right? I got this. and in many ways, since that experience, I do got this, right? In many ways, I feel like many things have happened, and I've put myself out there in so many ways that I never would have before.
And I'm watching you do that. It's powerful.
Yeah, I love it.
But powerful. I want to talk about that too, as soon as we talk about this.
Yeah, so this
real human experience, which I understand this too. Go ahead.
The very next day, I remember thinking like, yeah, I'm invincible. I'm not afraid of death. And I take everybody back to the river. We go down the Independence Trail to the South Fork of the Yuba River, and I take them to like one of my childhood spots where I used to go to all the time because I lived up there. And we're in the river, we're just hanging out, and we're sitting on rocks, and there's this deep water that everybody wants to swim and go over these other rocks. I'm like, okay, sweet. Like, I grew up at the river, like, no problem. I'm a triathlete. Like,
I'm a triathlete.
I've done Ironman.
I got this.
I wasn't thinking all those things, but I'm looking back at the situation, and it makes me laugh, because you know how like maybe if you're like a little malnourished and a little tired, and maybe you've had a little bit too much caffeine, maybe, and like you stand up suddenly and you feel like you're going to pass out.
Yeah.
So this happened to me. I was sitting on these rocks for a while. We're talking, chatting, and everybody stands up and goes into the deep water and swimming. And I go last, right? And I stand up and I start swimming, and I start to feel that lightheadedness, almost to the point of like everything's closing in. I'm like, oh boy, I'm swimming in deep water, and I'm having this feeling like I'm going to pass out. Like, this is not good. And I remember the fear that came up in me, and that's when I thought about my family, and that's when I thought about what I would be letting go if
Yeah.
my dumbass drowns in this river because I'm about to pass out. And so I'm calling to my buddy Andreas, and he remembers this too. He's like, "What do you need? Like, you're fine, right?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "No, no, no, you don't understand." And I was like, and he was looking at me, and then he helped me, and then I started, like, my field of vision started opening back up, and it passed. And I remember thinking, like, isn't that interesting? Like, I thought I was fearless. I thought that I didn't
Yeah.
fear it, and but in reality, like, no, I mean, it's there. It's there for everyone.
It is, because you're not supposed to drown,
Right.
because you have a lot of work to do
Right.
here on a human level.
Yeah.
And we have we're in human bodies, and we have a nervous system that gives us these responses in the actual moment, because you needed to call out.
Mhm.
I believe your blueprint, your life gave you that opportunity right after the ayahuasca to humble you a little bit
Yep.
and to tell you, and like, because I know too, like, I will say I'm not in fear, but I pretty much don't live in fear, but that doesn't mean that there can't be times when fear comes in and I feel it, and like, yeah, like, it is human nature. If you're about to drown, that I would
Yeah.
hope that you wouldn't just be like, it's good.
Yeah.
That is our survival. That's what keeps you here to do what you're doing today. And so all of this journey goes on. This is what I've watched over the last 2 years. So you have that ayahuasca, and then you have breath work, and then you're practicing yoga, and now you have this nutrition program, which you do 42-day challenges, but it goes beyond that. Of course, a couple days ago, I was at a yoga class, and I end up talking to this guy, and he has done your challenge and was just like raving about it. Not really about the food as much as it is about the way people feel, and like, really what the name of your business is it empowers them. It empowers them to really, it's about feeling good, and like, and you're doing this everywhere. And so what I have watched is um maybe that experience has given you, and you have a blueprint of what you're supposed to do. That's what I believe. Our lives are divinely orchestrated. So that experience gives you the courage, just like I have the courage to do what I'm doing right now. My experience has given me the courage and the energy. It gives you the energy to, when you're aligned with purpose, to get out there and do what you're meant to do. And for you, you're spreading this empowerment through nutrition, and you're going to all the yoga studios, which is, I think you messaged me the other day and said that you had been to 77 yoga studios, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
Wait, what? I didn't think there were that many yoga studios, but what I see is it's about the nutrition, but it's your connection to yoga, and you're spreading spreading really your energy, which the vehicle you're using is this nutrition, and but it's really spreading your energy. Does that make sense to you?
It does. I started the business mostly fitness training. Started out with like programming for strength training programs, stuff like that. I knew about nutrition, right? I knew a lot more than most people about nutrition, but it wasn't really like the main focus or aspect of the business when I started it. It wasn't until after that ayahuasca experience and kind of going down a road of like, well, it's not, talking to myself, Mike, that's not actually what people need. People need to understand that when you feed your body the things that it actually needs, like your body will, your behaviors will automatically change, right? You don't need to think, oh, I'm going to cut this out or cut that out, right? All you really need to do is say, okay, these are the things that I'm going to eat, and I'm going to eat these things in about these amounts, right?
Yeah.
And when that happens, your body just lets go of the cravings that it has for, the junk, the box, the processed foods. And I've been in industry for a long time. I've done a lot of different things in my life, but one of the things that I've done is sell complex industrial machinery to food manufacturing plants. And so I've seen lots of things when it comes to food production and the way that food is packaged, processed, and then fed to the market. And it's quite gross, actually. And one of the things that always stood out to me in my endeavors was how clean our drugs are, our pharmaceutical companies, how clean and sanitary and just beautiful everything is. And how
in the places that these things are manufactured.
so where our pharmaceuticals are made, these companies, these plants are just so put together, so clean, so organized. Everything is just so perfect, right? But then you step over into the food industry and it's a mess.
Yeah.
It's gross. It's actually nasty, right? And so they say, hey, if you don't ever want to eat hot dogs again, go to a hot dog factory or something, right? That didn't quite work for me. Even though I had seen all this stuff, I would still eat whatever I wanted to eat, right? But I've seen it all, right? I've seen a lot of the way that our food is processed, and it's not. I always tell people, back up like 500 years, back up 1,000 years. If you can imagine anything that's available to you today being available to you back then,
Yeah.
eat it.
Yeah.
If not, don't touch it.
Yeah.
Right. It's that simple. It could be that simple, like a paleo approach, right? But anyway, so I started incorporating more nutrition coaching. I went back to school probably around 2021, and went back for like application training of nutrition, not just like nutrition, because there's like registered dietitians that do our challenge and they rave about it.
Okay.
Right?
So you're actually, people, it's not just about knowing, it's about how, which that totally makes sense. It's about how you're helping people and you're tying it in with mindset and this whole, it's not just about the nutrition.
Our main thing, I think, is what we do. What I aim to do is help people just change the way that they think about food, help people change the way that they think about their body, right? And help people like stop. And 90% of our members, our clients are women, right? And age 35 to 65, in that range. And I find myself having this conversation like multiple times a day, every day. Like, hey, you're great the way you are. There's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah.
Right? All you're doing is remembering, oh, these are the things that I actually need in order to support like a life of vitality, right? A life of like, I feel great all the time, not just sometimes, right? And also like, okay, we advertise a 42-day challenge. It's a limited amount of time. We advertise to people that you're going to lose 4 to 6% body fat. Why? Because let's face it, the advertising of, hey, we're going to help you be whole and eat good nutrition, like nobody's going to sign up.
I understand.
Right? So
I understand. You have to hook them in.
Right.
Yeah.
Then once they're in, then I describe to them, once they're like 3-4 weeks into a 42-day challenge, I say, look, most people that come to us stay for about a year and they discipline themselves in these ways for about a year. Some people 6 months, right? But most people about a year, so that for the rest of their life, they never have to think about it again. They never have to wonder, like, am I doing the right thing for myself, right? They never have to, like, question whether or not, oh, I'm on vacation. Should I eat this or shouldn't I? Or you know, they don't have to think about, like, is sugar bad? Or wait, is fruit bad because it has sugar in it? They know all these things after a year.
You're empowering them, just like the name.
Right.
Which is and that's what I'm trying to do too. Like, it comes from within. So we just need information. And then once I haven't done your challenge, but I have over the last, and I never think I know everything, although I do. We all know everything. We're just remembering what we know. But what it is that over time, in my experience, which it sounds similar to you, I was my own mindset coach maybe, but I would learn like, okay, this about this. And over time, it becomes kind of natural to know. And then if I eat, I mean, literally on the way over here, I was talking about whatever I ate last night. I think I ate like rosemary sourdough bread, and I don't feel so great this morning. There's nothing wrong with the bread, but I was like, of course I'm going, just because I feel a little, I ate a lot, like a couple pieces of it right before I went to sleep, talking to my daughter. And because I'm so in tune with what I eat, I can feel it. And I feel a little dehydrated. I feel a little, and it's like, it doesn't mean that I can't eat that bread.
Right.
I can. It's just that I've done this over time and I've learned a lot as I've gone, that it's like, I always think of my body as a science experiment. However, I had to have this information come to me over time. And it's not the idea of doing challenges or diets. And I know you say this all the time, like, that's not what this is.
Right.
But you got to get people in some way, and you're doing that. And I love that you're doing that through yoga. And sometimes, so you're going around to all these different yoga studios, and that really, I mean, it's for everybody. It's not just for people. people that are doing yoga. This is for
there's a specific reason for the yoga community and why I'm taking that
tell
approach,
me.
right? So
tell me about that. But it is for everyone, because if people are listening and they're not doing yoga, it is for everyone.
Of course it's for everyone.
Yeah, it is for everyone.
Number one, I love yoga, right? And yoga came in for me real strong after that ayahuasca experience, along with the drum. Although those two things I didn't see as being, together. I saw them as being totally separate. Me in a empty room by myself practicing the drum, and then me going to practice yoga in a yoga studio.
Isn't it funny how we think we know?
Yeah,
we have no idea.
I didn't want those two things to touch ever.
Yeah, and so it was not. Yeah, they do touch. Yeah,
and actually, you mentioned Becca. Becca was the first yoga instructor that I played my drum at the end of her class, because more than most yoga instructors at the time, I felt very connected to her for some reason.
I'm very connected to her too. We are all connected.
Yeah, loved her.
Actually, the guys here at Live Action Music are connected to Becca also, and that's how I ended up here.
Okay.
Because we just are this beautiful little web connecting all of each other to do the work that we're doing.
And she's been super helpful to me, I mean, in many different ways since I've known her. I just think she's a great human being. But
she is. And so are you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So
we all are.
Yeah. I remember thinking like the yoga community is great. Everybody here is sort of like in it. They're practicing this yoga for themselves. But also, I mean, I would argue that they're practicing this yoga for their fellow yogi that's right next to them. Right. And we're all doing it for each other.
Yes.
So I recognized that, and I thought that's what's needed. People, I think in general, what they tend to do is they tend to find some cookie cutter approach to a diet, or they just decide to restrict intensely what they're eating because they're trying to lose weight, which we always argue is the wrong approach in the first place, right? Body weight, what does that matter, right? What matters is composition, right? And what does that matter even if you don't feel good, right?
Yeah.
So what I knew was that, okay, if I could create a way, because I was doing one-on-one coaching at the time, if I could create a way to have this done in community so that everybody's supporting each other while they're all doing the same thing, which is what my daughters are going through right now in basic training. Yeah. And I've coached them throughout the last several weeks and months. Hey, realize when you're doing this, it's hard, right? It's very difficult. It's challenging. Like our challenge, it's called a challenge for a reason. And anybody who thinks, oh, this is a piece of cake, like in the first week, I always hear it like, oh, this is going to be easy. I'm like, okay, talk to me at day 42.
Yeah.
Right. And I told
better together is what I'm hearing right now.
Absolutely better together.
That's the theme of my family.
Not only better together, but like if you want to have the best possible chance of success with anything, I believe it should be done in community.
Yeah.
Right. If it's done in isolation, where's the fun in that?
Yeah.
There's no fun in that. Right. And in my view, like if I want to be successful with something, it's got to be fun. Right. It's got to be worth doing. And I think it's way more worth doing when you can encourage others along the way, when you can be encouraged by others, when you can maybe learn from other people's mistakes. Maybe they can learn from yours, but also you get ideas from people in our community. Like you see what people are eating. They see what you're eating if you're vulnerable enough to put it out there.
You know, it's funny. Now I'm remembering I somehow, of course, because this is what happens in my field, I somehow end up in the private group, even though I'm not part of it.
Oh, yeah?
So I've actually seen this.
Okay.
And you're like, I don't know how you ended up in there. I'm like, that just happens. And so I've seen it. And you could literally not be part of the challenge. Like I wasn't, I was learning stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
I was learning from like just, and I knew that I was put on there. Like, it doesn't matter. Nothing's by accident. Yeah. I was put in there really probably even for this conversation to like really validate that, because I was watching and just the group alone, there was so much. And then you're giving constant feedback in that group.
Mm-hmm.
That was back when it was on Facebook. It's not anymore, but because you don't have to be on Facebook, which I love that.
I felt convicted about having the Facebook group, and although I use social media to attract attention for the business, I thought, wow, I'm actually furthering people's addiction to Facebook. So I found another platform that I could use that was private, that actually pulls people away from social media and causes them to be in a private community of like-minded people with no BS.
Yeah.
It's just what you're doing, right? Yeah. There's no politics, there's no ranting, there's nothing besides what you're doing, right? And
you go there to do what you're doing, and then maybe you spend time there, and people can choose whatever that's going to be for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've experienced it, and I think that part is great. And I want to talk about when you're talking about doing it in community, because right before this we were talking about mirrored experiences.
Mm-hmm.
When I talk a lot about how we're all one.
Mm-hmm.
We're all one, and we're literally just reflecting. You and I are reflecting back at each other. We have continuous mirrored experience. So
Mm-hmm.
this podcast is collectively, it's bring every single person that comes in and sits in this chair across from me. There's a bunch of connections. So you're connected. You're part of this Feel Good Always. You feel part of it. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, you feel part of it. Um, but then we might go to our yoga studio and we feel part of the yoga studio. And people go into this challenge and they feel part of the challenge. We cannot do this alone. I'm being helped by doing what I'm doing here because we're doing it together.
Right.
So in all areas of our life, really being in community, it's so important. I know you know Andrea Spacek. She sat in this chair a couple weeks ago and said the same thing about like sacred travel. And I know you just did something like that too, where when we get put together with people, whether it's your nutrition challenge, it's a yoga class, a yoga teacher training, it could be it could be a writing class. It could be your kids are all on the same soccer team,
Yeah.
and you're the parents on the sideline. When we do things in community, and especially when it's intentional work, so maybe not the soccer team,
Right.
that
Right.
could be disaster, which I've been a part of myself and
Yeah.
been the disaster.
Yeah.
Learned from that one. And I say that because, competitiveness and all of that. But so when we do these things intentionally, and we do it together, it builds the energy, And so I love that you explained that to me, that's why you're doing it at yoga studios. And I believe when you get called to do something that it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be easy.
Yeah.
And then we have now I want to talk about your daughters, because you've had these massive experiences. You're a family guy. I get what you're saying. Like, I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to leave my family. You and your wife have been together for 33 years. You have 4 children. You're out hiking, doing things with your family. Your family is your world. It's your life. It's the foundation of everything that you do. I know this about you. I admire you and Jen both, as parents, and just everything that, you're doing out in the world. And so literally yesterday, and I was like, of course, the timing of this, once you told me, because I just keep saying like, there's something bigger here. So literally yesterday, your daughters went off to basic training, and that's a big, so you gave them some pep talk about what it was going to be. But what about for you?
Yeah. So, I mean, I went through the same experience, let's see, 30 something years ago,
Yeah.
right? 32 years ago or 30 years ago. A lot's changed since then, I'm sure. But I think a lot of things have stayed the same. So when I'm giving them a pep talk, I was more concerned about them feeling isolated and alone and like kind of getting in their head and maybe getting down on themselves. And I would just remind them like, hey, when things get tough and you're feeling like you don't want to be there and you're wondering like why you made this decision, look at the person next to you and see what try to find out what they're struggling with and try to help them.
Yeah.
And when you do that, I would just describe this to Raina and Kylie. Like when you do that, you're extinguishing your anxiety and you're extinguishing your worry because you're focused on others. And there's power in that. One of the things I've noticed since I've been coaching people, going back for a second, is the deeper I get into it and the more people we help, the more just like automatic all of this stuff is for me, because it hasn't always been easy for me, right? People think, oh, you're perfect or whatever, like with the nutrition. Like, no, not at all.
It's
right?
remembering, like you said.
Yeah.
You've said some beautiful things to me outside of this part. You said beautiful things in here about that remembering. Talk about that again. Just a little bit more, like about remembering and how it applies to nutrition.
Yeah. So I often find myself describing to people like when they're not getting it, right? I think, okay, instead of asking the question, like, is this good or is that good? Remember back to 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, right? And they're like, look at me cross-eyed. I'm like, well, imagine, what was going on 500 years ago, approximately. There was no Albertsons, right? There was no Save Mart. There was no grocery store at all, right? Everything was very much, you call it hand to mouth, right?
Hand to mouth.
And you had to fight for your food. You have to like figure it out. you have to find it, right? And it wasn't in a box or a package. And so remember that, right? Like remembering like what is it that's good for me and what is it that's not good for me. If you really stop and just breathe and close your eyes and think about it, it's pretty simple, right? But I often get questions about like, is this a thing that I can eat, or is that there's so much fear that people have around food. And one of the other things I noticed in yoga studios is there's a lot of under eating going on because people are trying to be skinny.
Yeah. That's not just yoga studios. That's
Oh,
everywhere.
it's everywhere.
Yeah, and we can't those kind of things, the thing around body image and all of that, it is we can just hope that all of the work that we continue to do on ourselves, that we can undo that.
Yeah.
And the work that you're doing. And yeah, it is a very common thing everywhere, the under eating, the relationships with food that I don't know about men, but I know that like many of my women friends over the years, and that is that's a societal systematic issue that has been kind of put on women. And really, like you said, remember, because this is not our nature.
Yeah.
Our nature as human beings, as women, our divine right is to be happy with who we are, no matter what. It has actually nothing to do with our outsides.
Right.
Nothing.
But when you remember that in and of yourself, like when you remember that for yourself, when I see women remember this, and I just had a woman the other day, Elizabeth, she's a current member in our community, and she wrote me a private message in our community and said, "Hey, Mike, I just want to let you know that I've never craved strength. And now that I've been strength training, I am craving it a lot more." And she's like, "I never really thought that it didn't seem like a feminine thing to me to be strong." And she described to me, she's like, "Oh, I went to my yoga practice. I felt amazing." Right. And I got through a class like with ease that used to just completely kick my ass.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's great. Like, that's the reason why we do what we do. Right. Like, keep going. And keep remembering that strength is good. Right. Strength is neither feminine or masculine. It's just strength.
Yeah.
From my view. Right. But anyways, going back to my girls, like I feel so fortunate that I can convey these things to them at a young age. Like, hey, eat. Don't go down this road of like, I'm not going to eat because I want to be skinny or whatever. Like, eat. Take care of yourself. Right. Train. Be physical. Move. Have activity. Like, they're into yoga as well. Right? And they were sad when they had to leave and put the yoga on hold for a minute. But I'm like, don't worry, you'll have plenty of physical activity.
Yeah, they'll have plenty of physical activity.
And
that you can empower them and be that like model for them. And I know Jen is such a great model for them too. How are you doing though with them leaving? That's what I want to know.
Yeah. So yesterday,
because you're an amazing father.
Yeah. Yesterday at the airport was tough. I was waiting. They had these enormous backpacks full of all these products, like tons of like travel size products that would last them the full 7 weeks. I'm just so proud of them because they're so organized. They're so put together. I didn't help them at all. Right. And I'm watching them in awe. Like, wow, you're so much better than I was. Right. Like, I remember when I was 18, I just couldn't wait to leave my house. That wasn't the case for them. Like, they love their home, right? They love being with us. But for them, it's not about that. It's about just deciding to do something and then following through on it. And it was sad, right? There was the sadness that they were leaving us, but also there was this happiness that they are following through and they're being strong, and they're just so driven and so purpose oriented, so goal oriented, that it just makes me proud. But I remember getting home yesterday and being in my room, like changing to go to the gym, because that's what I do when I need to process. I work out. I work out. I move
the energy.
So I understand that about like why you were in all those yoga classes.
Yeah,
right?
And
like,
I still, my whole life, I move.
Yeah, you have to move.
Yeah,
and for me, part of my moving is moving under extreme loads and resistance so that I can just get it all out. Right. And I remember like walking down the stairs yesterday, and I had kind of a moment where I was sitting on the stairs and I was just remembering all the years, right, that like kind of led up to this point. And I remember thinking of my oldest daughter, Kylie. She's 20, and she kind of hung around and was like doing Sierra College online and working at the Olive Garden. And really, I could tell she wasn't super happy with the way things were going for 19 and 20. But I told her, I said, I think subconsciously you were waiting for Raina to graduate from high
So they
school
could do it together.
so that you could do it together and so that you could be there for her and she could be there for you. And she didn't really fully understand what I was saying. She's like, well, subconsciously, no. And I'm like, okay, well, you'll learn over
You
time.
see you're seeing a bigger picture here.
Right.
Yeah.
And she didn't really understand what I was saying, but I said, just remember this conversation. I think that you and your sister are like universally connected forever,
Yeah.
right? Like you guys are super tight. And I know that you're going to support each other, even if you're not in the same space in this training. Like you guys are going through the same thing at the same time, and you both know it.
Yeah.
And I think that's amazing because for me, it was a different experience. I was alone, I was isolated, but I met so many people, and I encourage them, like, you're going to meet so many people. You're going to experience so many things. Just remember, my advice to them was like, just remember to be present. Don't be thinking about what's coming tomorrow. Don't be worried about what happened yesterday. Just be focused on today.
Which is great advice for all of humanity.
Right. The present moment.
Yeah.
Like,
and we remind it to ourselves. We say it to ourselves. We say it to our children, and we say it on this podcast all the time. We say it. You say it to the people you're working with.
And I think the feel good always movement is like, you will feel good always if you're in the present moment.
That's true. So what you just said, I love this too. It's the duality of both.
Mm-hmm.
So we can be sad and nostalgic maybe about all of the time that has passed and in awe of the beauty of what has happened at the same time. So this ability to feel it all, to sit in all of it and allow yourself to feel all of it, that it can actually feel good, because I can get really overwhelmed with like the power of love, because it is just all love. If you're missing something that's not happening in the present moment, maybe thinking of the time that's passed, that really is just love. And obviously watching what has come and happened is also love. So that's just a beautiful moment. And I really do believe we can feel good. And especially it's the easiest to do when we stay present. And sometimes the present moment sucks. Sometimes you're drowning in a river. You know what I'm saying? But we stay here in this moment. And for me, I know that when my mind starts to go too far ahead, and that's how I saved myself from suffering after Kira died, because I was adding extra suffering on top of suffering by thinking about how much suffering I was going to have. Right. And thankfully I had practiced being present for a long time. And you can always start now. Everybody can start now. Like, even if you've never practiced it, if you're hearing this, you could start now. So that would be my message to anybody that's listening. Start now. I'm always saying that, and be present. So I would like to ask you before we end, you've shared a lot of really great things about your whole journey. If it can have to do with nutrition, it could have to do with anything. If there's any advice that you want to give people, for this, like really the feel good always, like how do you do that? Any like tips?
I think starting with you're enough just as you are.
Yeah.
Right. You're enough just as you are. To think that there's some future version of you that's going to make everything okay is, I think, a fallacy. I think you already have everything you need inside of you. And all you have to do is remember and come back to it. Right. All you have to do is come back to sort of fundamentals, basics of human experience. Right. I mean, I say be present. For a lot of people, I think that can be a tough thing to come to. What do I mean by that? I would say if you can close your eyes and take deep breaths, like 5 deep breaths, I would say you're more than likely far more present than you were before you did that. Right. So it's pretty simple. I think breathing, closing your eyes, going to a yoga class, if you're so inclined, I think would be a great idea for anybody. Even if you feel like, and I can say this, it makes sense for me to say this, I think, even if you feel like you would be an outsider in a yoga studio, go. In fact, if you feel like you would be an outsider in a yoga studio, definitely go.
I love that.
Definitely go.
I'm a big proponent of yoga, but I practice attraction, not promotion, which means like, watch what I do. Like you've seen me do it for a long time. This is what I do, but people can find it wherever, but yoga is an amazing place to find it, to find yourself, to become present. And before every single yoga class for the last 13 years, when they ask us to set an intention, whenever I get asked to set an intention, it is always to be here in this moment, to be shown what I need to be shown.
Yeah.
Be present. And it is in that. And if that, yeah, maybe that's a beautiful thing for people, set an intention to be in the moment, to be present, and to be shown what you need to be shown, because the universe will connect and will show you when you ask.
Yeah.
And that's when the feel good always really comes in too, because you're like in awe of everything that you actually end up being shown.
I would say also what I see like in you and your experience and your grief, what I see is what we were talking about is letting go of, like when you experience something like sending your daughters off to basic training for the military, it feels like an end. It feels like something is dying, right? But the hope is that there's that new beginning. But I think for most of us, for probably all of us, death seems final.
Yeah.
It seems final. And
Yeah.
that's why there's so much more heaviness to it and so much more reflection. Like, maybe when somebody close to you dies, it feels like that's the end.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Turns out not.
I don't think that's the end. It's just the beginning of something else.
Yeah, it's massive.
Yeah.
And all I can have my experience in front of people. I had one of Kira's best friends with me this weekend. We were sitting at the ocean and she said, "It's not that I see the signs, but what I see in you, that you are feeling good, gives me hope."
Mm-hmm.
And that's all it takes. Like whatever it is that it gives, and she does see the signs. She gets a lot of signs, but she was saying she doesn't get them like me, but it's watching me have this connection. And really it's the feeling good. So I don't make it up. It's real.
Yeah.
And I don't have words for it. It's a felt experience that really it's just like what is possible. That's all that we're doing here. You're showing people what's possible. I'm showing what's possible, and other people are showing me what's possible. We all do this together in community, in lots of different communities, hopefully just like till it spreads out to humanity, really. The last question is, what does feel good always mean to you?
Okay, I'm glad you asked that. Let's see. I think it could be misinterpreted, right? Because I think if I'm drowning in the river, I'm not feeling good.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm there. I'm feeling as good as I can, right? I'm not let's take for example sending my daughters off to basic training yesterday. I'm not having a great time, right? I'm actually like, okay, this actually sucks, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm having that hope and I'm having these feelings of remembrance and just reminiscing on times, and also just pride. I'm proud of them. And I'm excited for them. So I could look at it as, oh man, woe is me, and my daughters are leaving and everything's upside down and bad and what's going, but in reality, like there's always hope, and there's always something to feel good about. No matter how bad things seem, there's always something to feel good about. Right.
Yeah.
So to me, feel good always is keeping your eyes open, staying present so that you can know what those things are that you're grateful for in any experience, in any circumstance.
It's the feel. You just named a lot of feelings: excited, proud, hopeful, and a little sad too, a little bit of grief. So feel good always, with the emphasis on feel, and you stay present for it all, for this full human experience and it can be good. It's what we decide it is.
Yeah.
It's what we decide it is.
Yeah.
And it's really beautiful to have this experience and to have it with each other, and that we all continue to learn good, because I do believe that it is our nature. It is where we are going. I really live pretty much in this feel good. It doesn't make sense on a human level. I mean, maybe that's why I got chosen for this role. Becky Bradley, whose daughter died, and is like, feel good always, feel good always in death. That's the thing.
I think people desperately need the message, right? I think people really need to slow down.
Yeah.
And appreciate all the good things in their life.
Yeah.
Instead of focusing, because it's our tendency is to focus on what's wrong.
Yes. And we it's a choice. Mm-hmm. And I know that really hard things happen to people. I know that my daughter died, and I didn't want to hear that it's a choice. And it wasn't a choice until it was, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a choice until it was. And I want to feel good. And I would hear a voice that was like, like, your life's not over. It's not what everybody's telling you. Mm-hmm. And really what I thought everybody was telling me was really what I was thinking about myself and my own experience. It's always about what we think.
Right.
We are always in charge of our own thinking. So if you think that people are putting things on you, it's really most likely you putting things on you. So we make a choice. And all that I'm doing today is hopefully showing a possibility to whoever needs to hear it. There are plenty of examples out there. Us moving into this higher level of consciousness, the frequency, the energy of this will find who it needs to find. And you and I found each other, and you're rippling out, doing it through yoga studios. Right now, it looks like the nutrition, which is part of it. And we all have our pieces.
Yep.
And we're doing it together because it is done.
Yeah.
Do you feel that?
I do.
Yeah, it is done. And it's kind of exciting. Yeah. And who knows what's coming next, but I'll stay here in this moment, and I'll do that. So Thank you for everybody listening. I'm going to give more information at the end of this, what you have coming up next as this gets published. And I'll put all of your stuff down there for people to want to follow along with you. And to see what's next. I'm sure you'll be on again too.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mike.
Honored to be your first.
The first male. Yeah. You are the first guy coming on here. I love you. I appreciate you. And I love all of you that are listening. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. And thank you so much to Mike. His journey reminds us that awakening can come through the body, through nourishment, and through the courage to really just align fully with who we are meant to be and what our life's purpose is. I'm going to go ahead and include all of Mike's information in the show notes, his website, the details on how you can join the next 42-day iMpower Nutrition Challenge. You can go ahead and use the discount code, which I will also include in the show notes. He's offering 20% off, so we really appreciate that. If you haven't yet followed the Feel Good Always podcast in your podcast app, please do that now. It really helps spread this energy, and share this podcast with anybody that you think it might resonate with. And on the next episode, I'm going to be sharing more channelings from Kira and the Angels, really talking to us about the Great Awakening, breaking apart the Matrix, all of this really good information that just helps us stay calm. And in this Feel Good Always energy, just reminding us how much we are being helped. And I love to bring these messages to you. So until next time, feel good always.